and the further schisms that resulted from the Protestant movement breaking into various warring factions. And this part of the reason why, for political reasons other than the scientific reasons he gave for the change of the calendar, were to isolate both the Protestant world and the Orthodox world.
That might explain some of the emigration of Protestant groups from England, the British Isles, in the late 17th and early 18th century, because I read somewhere that in 1711, when the Gregorian calendar was officially recognized in Great Britain, there were riots because people felt like they were being robbed a couple of weeks of time and of commerce and of income and everything else. So I'm guessing, but perhaps
and in fact, if you go back, George Washington, one of the founders of this country, was born under the old calendar. And when they calculate the new calendar, of course, when they adopted the new calendar, they of course did what most of these adopters have done, that you've had to drop a certain number of days. So his birthday, in fact, is not celebrated if you count out the years. So many years after his birth, because these days were tossed out at one point. And see, that was the central problem that the church felt with this arbitrary choice of the Pope. Why choose 10 days or 5 days or 1 day? I mean, if you're going to throw days out, why not throw out years? I mean, it was entirely arbitrary, just so they allegedly could bring the winter solstice back to December the 21st. And the church understood that these things, like when the winter solstice occurred, were not ultimately theologically important. And the Ecumenical Council decided, when they were going to accept the Julian calendar at the First Ecumenical Council, that this was going to be the calendar of the church. And the whole Paschalian, the cycle of movable feasts in the church, beginning with Pascha or Easter, and were tied to this calendar. And they worked out a complicated and complex formula for how you could have feasts that would move throughout the year and feasts that were fixed, so that there would be harmony. And one of the things that has happened because of the calendar change, the move to the new calendar, is now the Apostles' Fast, which it begins at Pentecost and goes to June the 29th.
Week after Pentecost. Yeah.
The week after Pentecost, I'm sorry. It goes to June the 29th. The Feast of St. Peter's and Paul sometimes ceases to exist under the new calendar because
because Pentecost falls after Peter and Paul.
Yeah.
Or close enough to it that it's within a week.
And it's thrown the whole cycle of services of the church so carefully and meticulously put together into a complete disarray.
And it has also created this whole schism between the old calendar and new calendar. The Russian church, as you were saying, is still on the old calendar. One or two of the patriarchates, particularly Jerusalem, is under the old calendar, and yet most of the official churches are under the new calendar. So you have this constant problem of one group is celebrating certain saints on one day, and then 13 days later other people are celebrating on another day. All of this is indicative of a chaos and a kind of disorder in church life, which is directly opposite to what the fathers and the saints and the apostles were trying to create by trying to create a church of true unity based on spiritual and doctrinal and liturgical principles of unity, all of which have been willy-nilly violated. For what reason? Simply to keep up with the West.
So this malfunction happens when people step outside the circle, which seems to encompass a kind of faith in God's mercy and just the mysteries of God, that He will take care of things and He will tell us and show us how to take care of it through the ecumenical councils, through the revelation of the divine inspiration of the Holy Spirit, through these various inspired or divinely inspired hierarchs at these councils. Correct?
That's right, and the mindset of the ecumenists is so, shall we say, ardently or devotedly humanistic that they are willing to sacrifice the unity of the church for the sake of basically maintaining their reputation in the West as being up-to-date gentlemen of the church, disregarding ecclesiology or the theology of the church, disregarding the liturgical cycle, and disregarding the many, many prohibitions that have been stated by various councils, local, in other words, of individual churches, or ecumenical councils, which stated that these things were not to be changed.
And you realize that the central motivation and motive behind all of this is a desire not to offend people, a desire not to make statements that are going to offend those Christian confessions in the West.
So they're forgetting about God because, as I understand it, God's church, the Eastern Orthodox Christian church, is outside of time. It shouldn't bow to the whims or fashions of the world or of man.
No, which is, again, this is that humanistic viewpoint that somehow human beings are more important than what God has to say, and therefore we can participate in things like the World Council of Churches and disregard any of the Orthodox principles that have been set down simply to maintain these friendly relations with the West. And this is throwing out the baby with the bathwater. It's throwing out truth for the sake of some sort of chummy, warm political correctness of the period. And even today, I mean, we're seeing controversies today about the Regents exams and how they're whitewashing everything. It's in order to not offend people, and this concept that basically the worst thing in the world, the only sin, is to offend people's sensibilities, leads you to all kinds of half-truths and watered-down truths, which is not the purpose and mission of the church in the world, but to teach and to help bring people to the truth and to wake them up to whatever we have to do to improve ourselves. And this is not at all the kind of attitude that is evident in ecumenism.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Timothy Fisher, reader at Holy Father's Russian Orthodox Church in Manhattan, and Father Michael Halford, who is a deacon at the, I might say, Old Calendar Greek Orthodox Cathedral in Astoria, Queens, for joining me once again on our fourth program concerning the heresy of ecumenism. My name is Vincent Neiman, and this is Orthodox Christian Television. Please join us again. Well, gentlemen.